So Hugh, so before I jump in, what's your name? And could you give us maybe a brief background of your studio or the team that you've been working with to release this title?
Yeah, sure. Just tell me when you want me to go.
Oh, sure. Right now would be awesome.
Cool. So, my name is Henry Hoffman, and my little studio is called Fiddlesticks. It's me and one other guy. He's called Dan DeRocha. And the way it works is he does like all the business and the accounting and all the stuff that I absolutely am terrible at. And then I build the game. So I do the art direction, the programming, and pretty much everything else. And then we've got one other guy that's come on board to help us out, who's a composer, and he's done all the music and stuff. Me and Dan went to university together, and we formed like a team after we graduated university. And this is sort of our first proper game together, really. So I don't know if you can hear it at the moment, but this is your mother speaking to you.
Ah, okay.
And she studies the theory of colors in a black and white world. Mm-hmm. So for her, it's like this hypothetical concept that colors don't exist, but she kind of studies them anyway. And she becomes so obsessed that she ends up creating a device that actually allows her to see color. And then she disappears under these sort of mysterious circumstances. And you play as her son, Hugh, kind of going throughout this game world, collecting fragments of her research, being able to see color for the first time in an adventure, really, to try and find out what happened to her.
Oh, wow. So, as far as you know, she's gone somewhere.
Yeah, she's like disappeared. You find out a bit later under what sort of circumstances, but at the moment, it's just completely out of the blue. No pun intended.
Right.
If you've heard of EastEnders,
okay,
it's quite a popular TV show over here, and she had quite a large role in that TV show. But we found her through like this voice talent agency. We had like the scripts that we were really happy with, and we sent it to them, and they put together like a whole bunch of samples for us, like 5, 6, or 7 samples. And then we listened to all of them, and then we put them in the game, we overlaid them in the trailer and stuff. But it was just this one voice actor that totally nailed it and sounded matched the music and the atmosphere of the game. So we ended up working with her, and that was an awesome experience. I've never worked with voice actresses or actors before. That was completely new to me, really.
This is really cool art. So you said that it's you and one other guy, one guy who did that's doing the business side. Does that mean that you did the programming, the art, the music? How much of this is your magic?
Yeah, so I did all the programming and the art, and I did a bit of the sound effect stuff at the beginning, but in the end we brought on a composer to help out with the music, because I'm just awful. I tried to play the guitar when I was 13 years old, and I was just awful at music, so I've never really tried to do the music side of things, but I do the programming and the art myself. I'm more from an art background, but I had to kind of learn programming in order to make the sort of games that I wanted to make, really.
Oh, so that's interesting. So when you went to university, were you like a graphical artist? Were you going there for graphical arts, and then programming kind of came afterwards?
Before university, I worked as a designer, like a web designer. So I would do design stuff more than art stuff. But then when I went to university, I studied video game design, and it was more of like an art-based course. So you were doing concept art and stuff like that. But it was in the 3rd year of university that I realized that if I wanted to make the sort of games I wanted to make, I had to learn programming, because there was no other way. I tried to do everything I could to avoid it. I would do visual-based programming, or I would try and use the tools that program for you and stuff. But in the end, you hit so many ceilings that really it was just it worked out better in the end that I just knuckled down and taught myself actual programming. So I have quite a fair amount of experience with 3D modeling. So I use a tool called Blender, which is like a free open source tool that anyone can download for free, which is awesome. But they had a scripting language called Python. So my very first programming language was Python, really.
I'm a big advocate of that language. I think it's phenomenal.
Awesome. Oh, it's so good. It's so easy to pick up as a beginner as well. I really recommend it to people that are trying to pick up their first language.
Absolutely agreed. And it's really powerful and fast too. So it's not like, you're writing something that's easy to write and then runs like crap.
Yeah, exactly. You don't hit the beginner wall that you normally do with certain programming languages, where it's easy but really slow. and so you learn it, but then there's not a huge amount you can do with it once you reach a certain point. Python's just pretty awesome all round, really.
I'm assuming this game wasn't programmed in Python, or is it?
No, it's not. That would have been that would have been quite a challenge.
Yeah.
But so I learned Unity for this project.
Okay.
This is the first time I've used Unity on a project, so it's been a bit of a steep learning curve.
Oh, that's cool. And I know Unity does have the 2D thing that they released, I think, 2 years ago.
Yeah, that was around the same time that we started, so that was like a massive help. There's no way I could have done it without all that extra functionality that they added.
And how is your and so that's Unity using the Unity scripting language, or did you use like C++ or C# extensions, or?
Yeah, so we use C#, so it natively supports like it's kind of weird JavaScript hybrid language called Unity script. But we tended to use C# just because there was more like tutorials and documentation out there for C#.
Is this only Steam, or are you releasing to multiple platforms?
Yeah, so it's out on Steam, PS4, and Xbox One. But on Steam, that's Mac, Windows, and Linux.
Oh, wow.
And then we're also releasing on PS Vita, but not until sort of the end of September, I think.
Oh, nice. And was there a, what would you say, like once the game was completed, right? Was there a big challenge to make sure it worked for the PS4 and the Xbox One? Like, what was the additional workload, I'd say, like maybe percentage-wise, to support more than just one platform using the Unity engine?
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge amount of work, really, and because we're working with a publisher, Curve Digital, they've got a lot of experience with like certification, getting through the platform certifications. That's the biggest hurdle, because as a developer, you kind of go in blind. You don't really know all the features that players want you to support, like whether you want like platinum trophies or certain achievement types and all that sort of stuff. So having a publisher made it a lot easier, because they just told you, they were like, right, just integrate all this stuff. And that's kind of what I did. After the game was finished, it took about 3 months, I think, to get it working on all the other platforms from PC. Wow. So we had it working on PC first, and then it took about 3 months for me to get it working on everything else, really. Because we approached a whole bunch of different publishers when we had the sort of prototype ready. I think we had offers from about 10 different publishers, but we went with Curve because they offered to, if we needed it, for support with like level design, with porting the game, with art stuff. They offered us some money so that we could get the voice actors on board and everything else like that. So they were really involved in sort of the development process. And as well, they let me work out of their offices as well. I've been working from home for this whole project pretty much, but I started to go a little bit loopy at the end because I was the only person I ever saw. So,
right.
So they offered for me to work out of their offices for a while, which if I was paying for like office space in central London, that would have been hugely expensive. So they've just been really supportive all the way throughout.
Oh, that is really cool. Yeah, I can imagine the it would also increase that risk factor of like, you know, I mean, you never know, right, whether or not a game's gonna succeed. So I can imagine that would loom over your head with all these office bills and all the other things that go into it. Which leads me to the next question. So you mentioned that, you know, you studied game design in college, and now you've got this game. So what kind of happened in between? Did you work for any big publishers prior to the release of this title? What was happening in between? Yeah,
so I've been independent since first year of university, really.
Oh, wow.
In the first year of university, I formed a small team, and we ended up we made a small Windows Phone game. I don't think anyone had a Windows Phone at the time, but it was published by Microsoft, and that we had published this game called Mush just before we graduated university. And that did okay. I mean, it did well enough to keep me going, and I made another more of a casual game called Watermelon. I did some work on Cube. I did some freelance game stuff as well, and then we kind of went straight into Hue.
Oh, wow. That is really cool. So what inspired you to make this title? Where did the inspiration come from and kind of the idea?
Sure. So like pretty much all the games that I've worked on, they kind of evolved from like a very simple core mechanic. And then I kind of flesh everything else out around that. So really, I spend a lot of time in Photoshop, having been sort of a designer for most of my life. So one day I was just in Photoshop and I had like a colored background canvas and I had an object. I can't remember what color it was. And I was just messing around with a hue slider, shifting it left and right, watching as the object sort of appeared to appear and disappear as I moved the hue slider. And then I thought, like, well, what if whilst it visibly disappears, it also sort of physically disappears? I thought then it could potentially work as a game mechanic. And I ended up, after doing that, doing a whole bunch of research on sort of color theory and some sort of color philosophy stuff. And then that was like super interesting. There was a whole load of stuff. You've probably heard it at the beginning where she's like, the sky is blue, but is that the same blue that everyone sees and stuff like that?
Right.
So there was a whole bunch of questions there that I didn't really feel had been sort of explored in game narrative. And it matched the mechanics so perfectly. And it just kind of came from there, really. A love of some sort of color theory and this just messing around mechanic that I discovered in Photoshop.
If someone's colorblind, will they be able to play this title?
I'm pleased you asked that question. So we spent a long time testing the game with colorblind people.
Oh wow.
There's actually a subreddit, a colorblind subreddit that I spent some time hanging out in. And I posted a video of the prototype we've been working on, and the title was, "Hey guys, I think I've created your worst nightmare. Can you help me out?" And a whole bunch of them got involved, and they offered me like tons of advice, what different systems I can use and stuff like that. And when I first started, I overlaid all the different colors with different patterns, so people would be able to match different colors based on their pattern as well as kind of like a fallback. But the problem is, as the art style got more intricate and more detailed, you can see like all this stuff that's cut out the terrain and everything. Overlaying all that with the pattern became like super confusing, and it actually made it worse for colorblind people.
Oh wow.
So that didn't work out too well. So we did a bunch more experimentation. There's actually a colorblind mode in the video menu now.
Okay.
And what that allows you to do is it attaches symbols to each color. And what you can do is you can match symbols in your color wheel to different colored objects, which also have symbols.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So it's kind of like a symbol-based system that reinforces what the colors are. We've done a bunch of testing with different colorblind people, and it seems to be working great so far.
Oh,
if you've got anyone in the chat that is colorblind and wants to give it a go, that would be awesome as well. When I was first out of university and I had just finished Mush, which was my first mobile game. Actually, it wasn't quite finished. It was about to come out, I think. And we'd completely ran out of money. Like, we had nothing left. We all moved back in with our parents, like the whole team. And we didn't really have enough money to do anything. Like, we couldn't go work together or anything like that. So I had to end up getting a job at like a large conglomerate insurance company, which is just like the complete opposite of who I am, really, more than anything else. And I did that for 6 months, and that was enough to put me off ever working for like a massive company ever again, really. So I pretty much from there on out, I've spent as much of my time trying to create stuff that's good enough, really, and that people enjoy enough for me to be able to do it independently, and to have that sort of uncorrupted vision, really, where you've got an idea for a game, but you don't really want to compromise it for investors or for publishers. Right. You kind of still have that independent vision. But not in a way where you can't take on feedback, but in a way where you're not making compromises, I think.
Right, like if, for example, someone came by your desk and said, well, I kind of like what you're doing there, but, you know, how about we just release the title as is and just...
Oh, yeah. That would be the absolute worst. I wouldn't be able to deal with that.
By being independent, you've got all this freedom, but how do you deal with the... financial risk? Was there a lot in developing this game, or did the publisher kind of like help smooth that out? How's your experience in that respect?
Sure. So when we first started the project, we kind of self-funded the prototype, and probably like the first 6 months or so of development was just kind of our own money left over from previous projects more than anything else. It wasn't a huge amount, but it was just like enough to get by for that period of time. What we did in that time really is put together like a really polished demo, and then we took it to investors, which is what a few indies do now. It's one of the options. And there was these guys based in London. They'd never funded a game or anything before. No experience in that really. and they really loved the game and they wanted to get on board, and we just started working with them really from there on out. And they kind of covered the basic costs, for which was like our initial estimation of time, and then we just kind of had to scrape by for the very end of development.
Yes.
Yeah, actually, what was because originally they were supposed to port the game themselves. But what they actually did is when we finished the game, they hired me. They hired me to port the game myself. So
nice.
as the project finished, I actually had kind of a job lined up with my publisher porting my own game.
That is cool.
It's a bit of a unique situation, really, but that worked out really well. That meant that I didn't have to like really struggle during this period, which is like the most important period when I'm supposed to be promoting the game, and struggling to try and get a job and everything else.
It probably must have been a bit reassuring too, that given that they were doing this, they probably felt like the game was well put together. And
yeah,
that also leads me to the question: at what point did you feel like you had something? Like, at what point did you go from, having this prototype that you haven't shown anyone to it? You kind of come into the realization, hey, I think this is gonna work out. This looks like something that could be successful.
Yeah, so it was quite a long time, really. We never really saw it as the big project that it is now. Certainly not. When we started, it certainly wasn't supposed to be a labor of love, which is very much what it's turned into now. But I think it was around the 3-month mark where we had. So I hadn't really got any of the art in the game or anything else, and the investors were sort of being like, "Come on, guys, it's 3 months and you've not really shown us anything. You need to get something together." And I kind of put all the art in. I'd put all the art together, but just not in the game. But I pulled it all in the night before the submission, and then as it got all in, and we had like the first sort of maybe 10 minutes of gameplay at that point, something clicks, and actually something works here with the art, with the mechanic, and with how everything's kind of come together. Something works, but I still wasn't convinced it was going to be sort of a success, or it was going to be like a big indie hit or anything else like that. But when I started to get a bit more confidence was when we won. There's a competition in the UK called Develop Conference, and they have an indie showcase. And until that point, we'd just been building a really polished demo, essentially, like a 30-minute demo to take to conferences and show around and stuff. But we ended up winning both the Indie Showcase Awards at that, which was the first time that happened.
Oh wow!
And that completely took us by surprise. Like, we were not expecting it in the slightest. And after that, I stood outside and I was like, shit! Like, these guys, the public is really expecting like a really good game, not just a 30-minute demo. I need to kind of get my act together and turn this like really polished demo into like a really polished sort of 5-hour game. And then that's pretty much what I spent the whole next year doing. I locked myself away and worked really, really hard on like building all the rest of the levels and adding in all the extra content and everything else.
Oh wow! In relation to quality testing, how did you do most of it? How did you handle the quality testing of the game?
Yeah, so I mean, that's been a massive learning experience, because I thought it would be fine just me doing it myself, like me playing through and like stress testing the game and like jumping in all the different areas and stuff. But Curve, our publisher, they got like a dedicated QA team. And they, like, after I submitted the build, like, they played through and they found so many bugs. It was crazy, stuff I'd never even think of. It completely blew my mind. So I was working really closely with them, and I fixed everything that they found. And they're very good at breaking everything that I do. This is a little bit depressing, but it's worked massively in my favor, really, because I think the game's pretty good when it comes to bugs so far.
Yeah, it seems to. I haven't run into any issues as of yet. I tend to break games very often. I actually ended up playing a game called Abduction yesterday, and I guess I beat the game in such a weird way that I realized 3 hours after not being able to solve the game that oh no, wait, oh there we go, that I had found some kind of permutation that prevented me from actually beating the game. And so
really?
you can imagine that, no matter as far as they were concerned, whatever that team, how big that team is, they probably thought the game was ready to go. But you never know. There's always someone out there that does something that you don't expect.
Yeah, totally.
Then you panic, right? I'm not sure they're panicking, but still. Oh, skeletons hanging. Okay. Will the game ever come to tablet?
We wanted to support mobile to begin with, but the problem is, as you get later in the game, some of the twitchy platforming elements are pretty tough. Sort of like some serious reaction-based gameplay, especially the real final levels. So we did some testing with touch controls, and like whilst we could do it, it would really sacrifice the quality of the game. I think I don't think you players would experience like the same level of control that you need really.
Is being a game developer a really winning job title for the ladies out at the pub?
So that depends what sort of pubs you hang out at, I guess.
Yeah, that's a fair point. What would you say the most difficult challenge was for you in the development of this title?
So there were so many different challenges in different areas. I think probably what took the biggest toll was like work-life balance. When you work from home, suddenly everything you do becomes about work. That's my experience anyway. And obviously, if you're trying to hold down relationships and everything else, that can take a toll on kind of everyone around you. I don't think really in this project I managed it particularly well. I think it was a struggle for kind of everyone around me. So I think that took a real emotional toll. But I think maybe in the next project, I'm kind of a bit more aware of that, and I'll make sure that sort of thing kind of doesn't happen. But I think on a more of a technical level, it was just building all the puzzles. Like for every puzzle, like it couldn't just be a variation of a previous puzzle. Every puzzle has to have a purpose, otherwise it's just padding and it's just a waste of time. So I think there's over 100 different puzzles, each of them with this sort of limited set of mechanics, and each of them tries to do something like a little bit different, a little bit new, to teach the player something new. And I'm not very good at puzzle games myself.
Sure.
So building puzzles is like playing a puzzle, playing an invisible puzzle, but in reverse. So for me, that was like a massive mental challenge, really. And I found like at the end of each day, if I was doing serious puzzle design, it was like really mentally draining. So I think that was probably the biggest actual challenge when it comes to developing the game itself.
Any favorite color of yours?
Favorite color? So I had this weird thing growing up where I would only ever wear a certain color. Like for periods of my life, I would only wear certain colors. So like through being a teenager, I would only wear lime green t-shirts. And then as I got a bit older and in university, I would only wear purple t-shirts. And then I kind of branched out a bit. I'm not kind of quite so bound by like single color clothing anymore. But it's probably still a remnant from that. My favorite color is probably still purple, left over from the days when I only wore purple.
Oh, nice. So anything you'd like to kind of leave us with in terms of like wisdom from a veteran? Well, you're slowly becoming a veteran game designer, I guess, or you are one. I mean, you have your own game out. I think that qualifies. Any words of wisdom and any final kind of things you'd like to tell us about the game?
So I guess my word of wisdom would be like just make stuff. Like if you're a game developer, or not even a game developer, but a creative person, just spend your free time like being creative and making stuff and working with other people and collaborating, and like don't spend time sort of I don't know, if you want to make games, spend more time making them than playing them, I guess. And if you love streaming, spend time streaming and just love what you do and do what you love, I guess. And in terms of closing notes for the game, I'd love to say the price, which is $14.99 with a 20% launch discount. And it's going to be released on Tuesday, the 23rd of August. But if you can't wait till then, you can wishlist it on Steam. I think you can pre-order on PlayStation 4 as well. And it's going to be out on the day on Xbox.
Oh, nice. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us. This was a pleasure. I had a ton of fun playing the game and having this conversation with you. Guys, can we show him some love in chat and thank him for taking his time out of his day to show us his his newborn.
Awesome. Thanks very much for having me. It's been a blast.
Thank you. Hey guys, I hope you liked that clip. If you want to see more awesome content, be sure to hit subscribe and let me know what you think by hitting the like button or, leaving a comment down below. Catch you later.